Saeed here. Welcome to Psychology of Spirituality. Today we're going to be delving into the research, looking at broad data, longitudinal data, correlational data, different sort of experimental designs on how effectiveness, religiosity, and spirituality is on adolescent health outcomes. Before we get into that, I want to give a shout out to my website. Been really working on it, integrating a bunch of free resources, some thoughts, some different clinical experiences from my variety of places that I've been working on. You can sign up on the newsletter on the front page and keep up to date. So before I get into it, I want to show this clip right here as the backdrop before we go into the data.
Help me not to stress my dad. Help me not to get dogs in fights. Help me be thankful for everything I've got. Where do you live? Help me not to tell lies. Are you watching me? I want to know what you are. I want to see what you see.
So our first finding is something which has also been substantiated, or just means also been concurrently found in other data, and that's link between religiosity and a decrease of risky behaviors on behalf of adolescents, right? This is probably the strongest correlation that we have in the developmental science on adolescence, right? The more religious that youth are, the decreased chances they have of early smoking or early sexual experiences or alcohol usage or drug usage, and chances for other sort of delinquent behavior such as fighting in schools, dropping out of school, not completing high school, and even risk for early incarceration. And this is particularly true for boys. And I'm also linking this other research study which found that also had the strongest correlation as well. And we can see that in a number of different film clips, like this one right here.
We're the tropical people, you understand? Let them Europeans deal with this madness.
Then why your tropical ass sitting on the goddamn cooler?
To keep you fools from drinking this poison. That's why.
Man, you better get your Salaikum Salam ass up off this box and pass me a motherfucking brew.
Sharif was an ex-knucklehead turned Muslim. He was so happy to be learning something he liked. He kept coming at us with it. He thought Allah could save black people. Yeah, right.
Yo, Kane, toss me one, homie.
Now, Stacy thought he was the pimp of the bunch. I mean, we was homies since we were little.
And again, we're focusing specifically on adolescence. That's my research area, right? And I would say that's even more important, right? Because that developmental pathway is integral. And those 4 to 5 years, 6 years, strongly predict young adulthood, right? Which strongly predicts the rest of your life, right? So we want our young people not to be trapped in this hedonistic treadmill, right? This facade that we have. And that's also shown in so many movies, right? I mean, I'm remembering Project X right now, Superbad, right? Those are comedies, right? But at the same time, right, adolescents watch this, and the message that they're getting from it is that for me to be a normal teenager, I need to involve myself in these sexual, drug, alcohol expenditures, right? But at the risk of what, right? And that's something called delayed gratification. And there are numerous research articles, science, pop science, even looking at delayed gratification, right? Something most famously seen in the Marshmallow experiment.
What is this marshmallow test? Well, when you look at children and you look at all the different theories about what makes successful kids, and the kids that want the marshmallow now tend to be those that want shortcuts, those that don't want to do the hard work. They want the quick kill. They grab that marshmallow. But the other ones say, no, wait a minute. If I wait 2 hours, I can get 2 marshmallows. I can hold out. There's a pot of gold waiting for me. They're not going to take the shortcut. And so you say to yourself, well, that's a test for kids. But then you track them decade by decade by decade, and you find that they are more successful, they have a lower divorce rate, higher income, higher status in society, that don't want that simple payoff now, but are going to delay gratification into the future.
So one huge area of methodological growth that needs to happen in the religious spiritual area is experimental designs, right? Looking at whether two groups of adolescents in this case who are exposed to a highly religious, highly spiritual intervention have differential outcomes, right? And a few studies have been done. I think this one is the most interesting one here because they use the mindfulness program, right? And I just wrote an entire, along with my colleagues, helped write an entire manuscript looking at religion and spirituality in schools. And I included a section, which is available on my website, looking at the more than 1,000, 2,000 programs of mindfulness that are embedded in schools, right? And I talked about this in this video right here, and also an article that I published on the subversive effect of mindfulness on religion and spirituality, right? Because even though it's framed as this secular scientific intervention, it has underlying spiritual connotations. Of course it does. I've delivered mindfulness in over 30 classes, right? From all developmental levels, right? From 4th grade all the way to college. Sense of purpose, deep breathing at a surface level, right? But that deep breathing is supposed to prime you into your broader sense of self, right? And that inherently begs transcendent questions, right? What's my larger purpose in life? What is the self? What is my consciousness? Things that cannot necessarily be answered within a scientific purview. And it's also very, very important to look at longitudinal data, right? Just looking at single time index may not account for the trends of religion and spirituality. And that's what I did for my thesis project here on Ramadan, right? And a number of different studies here found that overall religious and spirituality predict other variables, right, in mediation analysis, such as self-control, which in turn impact the outcome variable, right? So it isn't this one-on-one relationship, right? Religion and spirituality, better well-being, right? What else is happening in that equation, right? In this sense, right, over a period of time, religion and spirituality impacts the level of self-control that people have, adolescents have, right? They're more easily not swayed by peer pressure, right? By negative influences, right? Pornography usage, risky sexual behaviors, things like that, right? They have a larger sense of purpose, right? Which leads to enhanced self-control, which leads to higher levels of benefits down the line. Another area is looking at mediators, right? So mediators are indirect effects, right? So looking at a number of different ways as to how a causal mechanism can have a beneficial or a detrimental impact. So this meta-analysis found that as opposed to adults, even though it's also important for adults, it's very important for adolescents to have some sort of social, ecological enhancement of religion and spirituality for there to be a boost, right? And one of the strongest predictors of adolescent religiosity is parental religiosity, right? And that may be like so obvious for me to say, right? Of course, if your parents are religious, then you're going to be religious, right? But that's not so clear cut, right? What does it mean for there to be a stable parental household, right? This mediator found that marital relationship quality, parent-adolescent relationship, and parenting practices help explain the relationship, right? So having a warm, inviting, nurturing household naturally draws on love, support, compassion. You can say that those are underlying messages of all the great religious traditions, right? And adolescents having that deep fostering, deep bond with their parents are more easily or more readily able to integrate their parents' worldview into their own worldview. Also very important to comment here that extrinsic religiosity, even though it has some beneficial impacts for adolescents, especially because adolescents are much more tuned to their social environment. They haven't integrated these values and ideals in such a comprehensive manner like you do when you're adults, right? Although adults often lack in that regard also. Extrinsic religiosity is related to more negative mental health indexes, right? And that's extrinsic religiosity. You can understand I love Righteous Gemstones. I've been watching it again, and these people are the perfect example of extrinsic religiosity right here.
Digital demand.
It is time to finally stop the constant flood of filth and propaganda coming out of Hollywood. If they're gonna fill the airwaves 24/7 with that garbage, we gonna do the same thing.
Amen!
Basically using religion as just another means for power gain, right? Social status, more followers, and then broadening from that social level just from just parents, right? So parents usually have more of an impact in early adolescence, which is around from 10 to 13 years old. In older adolescence, the environment which the adolescent is in has much more of a substantial impact, right? In this case, having peers who are not necessarily religious, but supportive of a person's religious worldview, right? And, you know, if I can use myself as an example, right? When I was 15, 16 years old, right? I didn't drink, right? I didn't eat pork, right? And I had friends who were non-Muslim, right? But they always encouraged me, right? Hey, let's go to a place where they're not serving bacon. Let's go to a halal place so Saeed can come also, right? So having supportive peers who encourage you to not necessarily be religious, right? But want to see you do better. You know, and if religion is a bridge, a vehicle to take you to a higher sense of self, then of course the people around you should be supportive in that regard. Other sort of factors also include attachment to school, close relationship with others, right? Which is why collectivist societies tend to be much more highly religious, right? And collectivist societies, we can look at numerous film clips right here, looking at, you know, the communal bonding which occurs between different societies, right?
My brother Kenai went on to live with Coda and the other bears. He taught me that love is very powerful. And I passed on the wisdom of his story to our people. The story of a boy who became a man.
You know, when I worked security for 5 years, people would do moshing. Strangers, really, right? People of all different ages and backgrounds would do these crazy rituals. That's what they are. It's rituals. It's a religious, spiritual experience that's happening. Why are people doing this, right? Because beyond any sort of communicative level, right, these type of physical, experiential movements and transcendent type of ways of being help encode a much deeper social bond with other creatures, right?